At 20:16 a.m. in a Sioux Falls hospital room, I woke up hooked to machines, the beep of a heart monitor echoing like a reminder that I almost didn't make it. I had flatlined. Twice. But the shock that hit me harder than the heart attack came from a text message on my phone, a screenshot of my joint bank account, reading zero I blowed, followed by a message from my wife, Carla. I deserve this after everything I've done for you. My name's Martin Hayes. I'm 45, and I've been driving trucks for over 2 decades. I never had a glamorous job, but it kept food on the table and gave Carla the lifestyle she seemed to enjoy, at least until she decided to take everything while I lay unconscious with a stent in my chest and doctors calling me a miracle. We'd been married 15 years. No kids, just a mortgage and the quiet kind of life some folks call stable. But it seems Carla saw it differently. That morning, I didn't punch a wall or cry. I simply sent her back a thumbs up emoji. Then I called my older brother, Alan, who hadn't heard from me in months. Need a place to stay, I said. And I need you to keep it between us. He didn't ask questions. He didn't need to. By that afternoon, I was out of the hospital and sleeping in his spare room, away from the woman who'd gutted my life savings, 61 zousered gone in a blink. You see, Carla wasn't always like that. We met in a gas station parking lot outside Cheyenne. Her car had a flat, and I stopped to help. 6 months later, we were married. I was 30, she was 27. The long, haul routes kept me gone 3 weeks at a time, but the money was steady. She liked the nice house, the shopping trips, and the security. Over the years, our calls shortened, our texts got colder, and the warmth slowly disappeared. I missed the signs. A few weeks before the heart attack, I'd refinanced our house in my name. Carla said she was too busy to show up to sign. That decision turned out to be my salvation. Alan's daughter, Rachel, a second-year law student, had helped me set up a medical power of attorney last year, just in case. After seeing a friend lose everything to a stroke, I decided not to leave anything to chance. Funny how life plays out. 3 days after discharge, I got a message from our neighbor, Walter. Everything okay. Carla's got some guy over. I didn't answer. Instead, Alan took me downtown to our bank's main branch. I showed the fraud officer the text and explained I'd been unconscious when the money vanished. She gave me that professional, but pitying look and said she'd launch an investigation. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Back at Alan's house, I pulled up old investment accounts Carla had no idea existed. Emergency cash I never touched. I also called a lawyer Alan knew named Jack Morgan, who reviewed my case and raised one eyebrow when I handed him the refinancing paperwork. You might just come out of this ahead, he said. But you've got to play it smart. The next week, Carla showed up at Alan's house. I stayed silent, watching from the hallway as she knocked and pleaded through the door. We need to talk. I thought you were cheating. I panicked. Please, we can fix this. But I wasn't there to fix anything. I was there to rebuild what she tried to destroy. Jack filed for an emergency hearing. Judge Carmichael didn't take kindly to hearing Carla drain the account while I was on a ventilator. He froze the funds and warned her attorney that financial abuse of a medically incapacitated spouse was serious business. But that was just the beginning. Rachel, sharp as ever, found a secret account under Carla's maiden name with over $120,000 deposits matching my route schedule. Turns out she'd been siphoning money for over a year. Worse, the neighbor who warned me, Walter, he was in on it. His name was on the secret account as an authorized user. They were planning to sell up and skip town, but we beat them to the punch. Jack got an injunction. The court froze everything. I got exclusive use of the house. Carla's boyfriend vanished. She tried to fight, but with no money, no story that held up, and a judge who wasn't buying her crocodile tears, she folded. In the final ruling, I kept the house, the truck, and most of our savings. She left with a used car and a handful of regrets. I sold the house and moved closer to Alan and Rachel. I started dispatching from a local office. No more long hauls, no more 3-week trips, and most importantly, no more Carla. Looking back, I don't feel hate, just clarity. Carla thought she was ending my story, but really, she gave me a new beginning, one where I get to choose the direction, the peace, and the people who ride with me. Most people think heart attacks are the worst kind of wake wake-up call. But for me, the real shock didn't come when the defibrillator jolted me back to life. It came the next morning, when I checked my phone from a hospital bed in Sioux Falls, tubes in my arm and a monitor tracking every breath. The message from my wife Carla read, "I deserve this after everything I've done for you." Attached was a screenshot, our joint account balance drained clean. Over 61,000 gone, every penny I had saved for retirement, truck repairs, and emergencies. My name's Martin Hayes. I'm 45 years old, and I spent 22 of those years driving a big rig across the country, working hard to build something solid. My wife of 15 years had apparently decided she was entitled to it all, while I lay unconscious with a stent in my heart, and not a clue that my life was falling apart. But she had no idea I was 3 steps ahead. I didn't go home after the hospital. Instead, I called my older brother Alan. "Need a place to stay," I said. "And don't tell Carla I'm alive." He picked me up the next day and helped me into his spare room. That's where I started making quiet calls. To the bank, to a lawyer, and to Rachel, Alan's daughter, a law student who had helped me set up a medical power of attorney the year before. 3 days after leaving the hospital, we sat in the office of Jack Morgan, a sharp local attorney who knew his way around situations like this. We reviewed the refinancing documents for our house. Turns out I had done them in only my name, thanks to Carla's "too busy" excuse. That put me in a stronger legal position than she realized. But Jack wasn't just interested in the house. He was interested in justice. "Here's what we're going to do," he said. "We file for an emergency hearing. We freeze any accounts she touched. We document your hospitalization and show the judge that she drained your savings while you were incapacitated. That qualifies as financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult." It was a serious accusation, but completely justified. Meanwhile, Rachel began digging into records from her internship at the credit union. It wasn't long before she uncovered a hidden bank account in Carla's name, opened 18 months prior. Nearly 130,000 had been quietly funneled into it, in amounts just below the federal reporting threshold. It was classic concealment, even more telling. All the deposits lined up with the weeks I was on the road. It didn't stop there. Rachel checked the account and found another name listed, Harold Jensen, our neighbor. The same man who had once texted me, just checking in, while I was at Alan's house. Turns out, Harold wasn't just a concerned neighbor. He was helping Carla build a life without me, one paid for by mine. We gathered the evidence, bank statements, call logs, text messages, even a credit card charge for a hotel in Minneapolis during a week I was working in Seattle. Everything pointed to a coordinated betrayal. And so, Jack filed the motion. The day of the emergency hearing, I wore the same tie I kept in my truck for funerals. Carla showed up with a high-powered attorney named Patricia Wells, known for being aggressive. But Judge Carmichael wasn't in the mood for theatrics. "Your client emptied a joint account while her husband was recovering from a near-fatal cardiac event," the judge said, scanning the files. "Can you confirm this?" Patricia tried to frame it as emotional distress. Carla even whispered something about thinking I'd left her. But the judge wasn't buying it. He ordered the account frozen immediately and warned that any further financial activity would lead to criminal investigation. It was a small but powerful victory. And then came the real breakthrough. Jack filed a motion for discovery, opening the door for us to demand every record, transaction, and email. We compiled photos of the house improvements Harold had helped install, paid for with money Carla had siphoned off. We caught them on camera arguing in the courthouse parking lot. Proof of their relationship, despite Carla swearing under oath there was nothing between them. 2 weeks later, the judge issued an injunction freezing all of Carla and Harold's assets and barred either from leaving the county. More importantly, he granted me exclusive use of our home and confirmed I had grounds for divorce under financial abuse and deception. Carla's defense crumbled. Her lawyer tried to negotiate. She'd return half the funds if I gave her half the house. We declined. That offer came from a place of fear, not fairness. 3 months later, the divorce was finalized. I walked away with the house, my truck, and 80% of our shared savings. Carla got her car and the remaining 20% but only after she paid my legal fees from her share. The secret account was split equally, per court order, but with every deposit traced back to me, her win was more illusion than reality. Harold vanished not long after the hearing. Word was he'd sold his house and skipped town. Carla, I later heard, had moved to Minneapolis, working retail and renting a small apartment. Me, I sold the house, too many ghosts, and bought a smaller place near Alan and Rachel. I switched to dispatch work, no more long hauls, no more time away from people who mattered. Sometimes folks ask if I'd ever take her back. I tell them no. But I do thank her for showing me who she really was before it was too late. She took the money, but I took back my dignity, my future, and my peace. Not every battle is fought with fists. Some are fought with paperwork, with patience, and with people in your corner who refuse to let you fall. Carla thought she'd stolen everything. She didn't realize I'd already built a backup plan. At 45, I thought I was too young for heart trouble. I'd spent over 2 decades on the road as a long-haul trucker, rolling through every state from Nebraska to New Jersey, keeping America moving while quietly building a life for my wife Carla and me. We never had kids, just a mortgage in Sioux Falls, a modest home, and a quiet routine. I thought that routine meant stability. Turns out it meant stagnation, for her at least. It was a Tuesday when the chest pain got too bad to ignore. I pulled over on a rural highway outside Omaha, called 911 with shaking hands, and was airlifted to Sioux Falls. Doctors told me later I flatlined. Twice. They got me back, but just barely. The stent saved my heart, but what happened next almost broke it again. Lying in a hospital bed, weak and disoriented, I checked my phone. There was just one message from Carla. No, how are you? Or I'm scared. Just a screenshot of our empty bank account. Over 61,000 gone. My emergency fund, retirement nest egg, and truck maintenance money, all wiped out. Her message read, I deserve this after everything I've done for you. With a kiss emoji, like it was a joke. I didn't respond with anger. Just a thumbs up emoji. That was all I had the energy for. The doctors told me no stress, no driving for at least 6 weeks. I nodded, lied, and said someone was picking me up. Instead, I called my brother Alan. We hadn't talked much in years, not out of bad blood, just life moving in different directions. But when I asked for a place to stay and told him not to tell Carla I was alive, he didn't hesitate. She doesn't know you made it, he asked. Oh, she knows, I said quietly. She just doesn't know I'm not coming home. At Alan's house, I started to process what had really happened. Not just the medical trauma, but the betrayal. Carla had been planning this. I remembered the times she'd been distant, changing passwords, talking about girls' weekends with people I'd never met. She'd stopped asking when I'd be home. I thought it was just the natural drift of a long marriage. I was wrong. With the help of Alan's daughter, Rachel, a law student with a sharp mind, I began untangling the mess. I learned that the house was legally in my name, thanks to a refinance I'd done solo a few months prior when Carla said she was too busy to help. Rachel had also helped me set up a medical power of attorney after a friend's stroke. Turns out, protecting yourself doesn't feel paranoid when the storm actually hits. A few days into my recovery, we confirmed what I'd feared. Carla wasn't just draining money. She was living with another man. Harold, our neighbor, the one who used to text, just checking in. He wasn't checking in. He was checking out my life and stepping into it while I fought to stay alive. I could have stayed bitter. I could have burned everything down. But instead, I built. Over the next 3 months, I followed my attorney Jack Morgan's guidance. He was sharp and methodical. We filed the right papers. We proved financial exploitation. We froze the assets Carla had touched, and when Harold tried to disappear with her, the judge barred them both from leaving the county. Eventually, Carla caved. The house, the savings, and even the legal fees came back my way. But that wasn't the victory that mattered most. What mattered was how I rebuilt my life, on my own terms. I sold the house Carla and I shared. Too many ghosts there. Too many late night dinners eaten alone while she was, with friends. I bought a smaller home just outside town, close enough to Alan and Rachel that I could see them for Sunday dinners. I stopped driving long haul, Doctor's orders, but also my own. My heart had given me a warning. So I took a dispatching job instead. Home every night, no motel beds, no cold gas station coffee. With the money I'd recovered, I helped Rachel pay for the final year of law school. She earned it. Every document she tracked down, every financial discrepancy she uncovered. When she passed the bar, I was the first to congratulate her. Her smile that day meant more than any courtroom victory. I started sleeping better, too. No more waking up in a panic about Carla draining the account or wondering if she'd left the lights on at home while I was stuck halfway across the country. The stress melted away, like a fever breaking. One afternoon, while cleaning out a box in the garage, I found our wedding album. For a moment, I thought about tossing it, but I didn't. I put it back in the box and closed the lid. That chapter was over, but it was still part of my story. Now, when people ask if I'm angry, I tell them no. Carla thought she'd stolen everything. My money, my home, even my sense of worth. But she was wrong. She just cleared the way for something better. Sometimes, life has to break you wide open before you can see the truth. I don't regret the years I spent trying to make our life work. But I'm proud of what I've built since she left. A quieter life, yes, but a stronger one. Rooted in peace, surrounded by people who have my back, and guided by lessons learned the hard way. And every evening, when I sit on my porch with a glass of iced tea, I think this is the life she thought she took from me. But I'm the one who gets to live it. I nearly died alone. It was a Tuesday morning on a dusty stretch of I-29, somewhere north of Omaha. The chest pain had been building for weeks, but like any old school trucker, I figured it was just another bad cup of gas station coffee, or maybe the stress of being 45 and tired. But that day, it didn't go away. I pulled over, called 911 myself, and passed out before the ambulance even arrived. They airlifted me to Sioux Falls. I flatlined. Twice. Came back with a stent in my chest, a nurse calling me lucky, and a warning from the doctor to avoid stress like my life depended on it. Because it did. But the real blow wasn't the heart attack. It was the text message I saw when I finally checked my phone. From my wife of 15 years, Carla. Just a screenshot of our joint bank account. 0 balance. And the words, "I deserve this after everything I've done for you." She drained over 61,000. Our savings. My emergency fund. Gone. I didn't throw the phone. I didn't scream. I sent her a single thumbs up emoji and turned the screen off. That was it. No drama. No begging for answers. I was too tired for anything else. That was the moment something inside me broke. But not in the way she expected. When I was discharged the next day, I didn't go home. I called my older brother Alan and asked if I could stay at his place for a while. No questions, no drama. Just a quiet guest room and time to think. He didn't hesitate. "Your family," he said. Of course. She didn't even know I was out of the hospital. Or alive, for that matter. For the next few weeks, I stayed off the radar. No calls. No explanations. Carla reached out a few times, texts that went from annoyed to desperate. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I quietly talked to a lawyer. A good one. He explained that, because I'd refinanced the house recently in my name alone, and because Carla had emptied our joint account while I was medically incapacitated, I had a solid legal case. Financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. It wasn't just betrayal. It was a serious matter. We could go to court. We could fight for the house, the money, maybe even press charges. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized something. I didn't want revenge. I wanted peace. Revenge, even when justified, still ties you to the person who hurt you. I didn't want to be tied to Carla anymore. Not with anger, not with bitterness, and definitely not with lawsuits. So I let the legal team handle the basics, protect what was mine, recover what could be recovered. Then I started packing what little I cared to keep and looked for a small house just outside the city. Nothing fancy, just enough space to breathe. When Carla eventually realized I wasn't coming back, she showed up at Alan's door. I didn't answer it. I watched her through the window as she stood there, tears in her eyes, trying to play the part of the misunderstood wife. I didn't open the door. I didn't need closure. I already had it. The house was sold 6 months later. I didn't bother stepping inside again. My lawyer took care of the papers and a moving company sent what I'd requested to my new place. The rest, furniture, wedding photos, all of it, I told them to donate. What surprised me most was how light I felt. There were no more fights, no more long silences at the dinner table, no more wondering if she'd answer my call when I was 800 miles away. I was living alone, yes, but for the first time in years, I didn't feel lonely. Some evenings, I'd sit on the back porch with a glass of sweet tea, watching the sun dip behind the trees. My niece Rachel would stop by after law school classes, bringing stories and frozen casseroles. Alan came by on Sundays. I wasn't rebuilding a family. I was remembering what real connection looked like. People ask if I ever confronted Carla, if I ever told her off, if I ever yelled or cursed or demanded an apology. No. There's power in walking away without burning everything down. There's power in letting someone else sit in the mess they made. She thought she'd broken me, but all she did was give me a second chance. Not a dramatic one. No new love story. No multi-million-dollar windfall. Just a man with a mended heart, a small house with a clean porch, and a peaceful routine that didn't involve betrayal or pretending. A year later, I got a letter from Carla's attorney, an offer to talk things through. I tossed it in the fireplace without opening it. That chapter was closed. There was no need for bitterness, just boundaries. Some people think forgiveness means saying, "It's okay." But for me, forgiveness meant releasing. Letting go of what I couldn't change. Walking away from a fight that wasn't worth my peace of mind. Refusing to carry someone else's shame. I didn't get even. I got free. And that's a better ending than any courtroom could ever give me. It was supposed to be a normal haul. Just me, my rig, and a long stretch of highway between Kansas and Nebraska. I'd driven that route more times than I could count. But that morning, something felt different. By the time I reached the outskirts of Omaha, my chest was tight and my hands were shaking. Not nerves, something worse. I pulled over, dialed 911, and prayed I hadn't waited too long. They airlifted me to Sioux Falls. Massive heart attack, they said. I flatlined twice on the table. When I finally came to 2 days later, tubes in my arms, monitors beeping around me, I thought I'd gotten my miracle. Turns out, the real damage hadn't even started yet. There was one message on my phone. Just one. From my wife, Judith. It was a screenshot of our joint bank account. 0.0 Drew. 60. $1,000 gone. Below it, she'd written, "I deserve this after everything I've done for you." That's all. No. Glad you're alive. No. How are you feeling? Just a digital gut punch wrapped in a smug little text. We'd been married 15 years. No kids. Just a mortgage. A dog that died 2 winters ago. And a lifetime of bills I'd paid with diesel, sweat, and time away from home. While I was recovering from cardiac arrest, she emptied our savings and vanished. I didn't reply with anger. I didn't beg for answers. I sent her a single thumbs up emoji and turned off the phone. That was the moment the old me died, and something steadier, quieter, tougher took his place. My brother Henry picked me up from the hospital. We hadn't been close for years, but he welcomed me in without hesitation. "You're staying with me now?" he said. No arguments. Judith had no idea I was out of the hospital, no idea where I was, and I planned to keep it that way. The next few weeks were a blur of rest, doctor visits, and legal consultations. I wasn't just healing from a heart attack. I was healing from betrayal. Turns out, when your world shatters, you either crumble with it or start sweeping the pieces into something new. And that's exactly what I did. I met with an attorney, a woman named Clara, whose calm voice was sharper than any courtroom gavel. She walked me through everything. The bank withdrawals, the house title, which I'd recently refinanced in just my name, thank the Lord, and the sudden disappearance of assets. She may have cleared the joint account. Clara said, "She's not walking away clean. We filed for emergency financial protection." The judge froze all accessible funds and opened a full discovery of Judith's accounts. That's when we found it a separate bank account in her maiden name, opened 18 months prior, with regular deposits. Always just under the reporting limit. Classic case of hiding funds. But the part that hit hardest, those deposits matched the weeks I'd been away on the road. She hadn't just betrayed me in a moment of panic. She'd been planning this for over a year. Worse still, there was a name connected to the account, her friend, Marcus Hayes, our neighbor. The same guy who'd texted me a friendly, "Hope you're doing okay," message the day I got home from the hospital. Turns out he wasn't just checking on me. He was checking to see if I'd caught on. I hadn't. Not back then. When I confronted the situation through legal channels, Judith flipped the script. Hired a high-powered divorce attorney, claimed I was emotionally distant, accused me of abandoning the marriage, said I'd been hiding money, not her. It would have crushed me 6 months ago. But not now. Now, I had something she didn't: clarity. See, the funny thing about betrayal is it strips away illusions. You stop making excuses for bad behavior. You stop lying to yourself. And eventually, you stop hurting, not because the pain disappears, but because you've grown stronger than it. I moved out of Henry's place and into a small cottage outside the city limits. Nothing fancy, just peace, a porch swing, and a spot to park my truck. The heart still needed rest, but my soul, that was starting to feel alive again. Judith lost her case. The judge wasn't impressed by her theatrics. I kept the house, the bulk of our savings, and she was ordered to pay back legal fees from her share of the hidden account. Marcus, he disappeared the moment the court subpoenas came in. Coward to the end. I didn't chase her. I didn't need to. She taught me the hardest lesson of all: sometimes love isn't enough. Trust matters. And once it's gone, there's no putting the toothpaste back in the tube. Now, when people ask how I'm doing, I tell them the truth. I'm not bitter. I'm better. I spend Sundays fishing with Henry. I've picked up woodworking, building birdhouses for the neighbors' kids. I even started mentoring younger truckers online, guys trying to balance life on the road with life at home. I tell them, don't ignore your health. Don't ignore your gut. And never, ever ignore the little signs that someone's drifting away. Judith took everything she thought mattered: money, comfort, the life we built. But I walked away with the one thing: she never had peace of mind. In the end, I didn't just survive the heart attack. I survived her. And I came out the other side, wiser, quieter, and stronger than she ever expected. I used to think the worst day of my life would be the day my heart stopped. Turns out, it was the day I realized the woman I loved had already walked away long before that happened. My name is Raymond Brooks. I'm 61 now, but this story started a few years ago, back when I was still hauling long distance, pushing 70-hour weeks behind the wheel of my Freightliner. My wife, Ellen, had always said she admired my work ethic, said it gave us a good life. But when I woke up in a hospital bed, after flatlining twice from a heart attack, I found out just how much she really valued it. There was only one message from her on my phone. Just one. A screenshot of our bank account. Empty. Then 6 words: I deserve this after everything. She'd taken everything. My savings, my emergency funds. The account I'd spent 30 years quietly building for retirement. She didn't even bother to call. I didn't reply with anger. I just sent a thumbs up emoji and turned the phone off. That's when I knew this wasn't the end. This was the beginning of the rest of my life. I didn't go home. I called my brother Tom, a retired mechanic in Sioux Falls. Told him I needed a place to crash and not to tell anyone, not even Ellen, that I was out of the hospital. From that quiet guest room, with a healing heart and a broken spirit, I started putting the pieces together. The transfers, the secret account in her maiden name, the neighbor who just happened to stop by, too often when I was gone. Betrayal doesn't always come with screaming and slamming doors. Sometimes it creeps in wearing familiar faces. But here's the part she didn't know. I'd learned from other men in my trade, guys who came home to empty closets and frozen accounts. Years ago, I quietly created a separate holding company for my retirement income. Filed it right, paid my taxes, but kept it legally separate. It's just in case. That just in case became my lifeline. The courts saw the truth. The judge called what she did financial exploitation of a medically vulnerable spouse. I kept the house, the truck, most of the savings, and I never had to see her again, not even in court. She moved out of state. Good riddance. Today I live in a quiet cabin in western Montana, right by the lake. I've got a wood stove, a good dog named Huckleberry, and peace. I work part Time dispatching for a small trucking company. No stress. No long roads, just stability. And you know what? Sometimes, losing everything you thought you needed is how you find what truly matters. Never assume your quiet sacrifices go both ways. Sometimes, the people we give everything to were never truly with us. They were just standing in the shadow of what we built, waiting for the right moment to take it. But there's power in starting over. There's dignity in not chasing those who leave. And there's healing in realizing that you, not your job, your house, or your partner, are the foundation of your life. You're never too old to rebuild. Never too late to begin again. Leave a comment below. Have you ever had to rebuild your life from nothing? What did it teach you? Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more real stories that speak to the soul. Stories of heartbreak, redemption, and starting over. Because sometimes, the ending you didn't want is the beginning you truly needed. Thanks for watching. Take care of your heart and your peace.